Hello everyone, this is Ashley Romero, and this here is my presentation on fetal alcohol syndrome. This presentation basically details the ins and outs of the syndrome in education. To begin, maternal alcohol abuse can cause a great deal of malformations of various degrees of severity in offspring. Fetal alcohol syndrome is one of the many disorders caused by a drinker in the state of pregnancy. For a child to be diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome, they must identify these characteristics. To start, brain damage. This is basically causing mental retardation, poor memory, balance, coordination, and other neurocognitive functions. Next is basically several distinctive facial features. These include small head, eyes widely spaced, distinctive folds in the corner of the eyes, and we'll take a look at this now. Short nose, flat mid-face, thin upper lips, and below average weight and height. Some individuals diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome also experience vision and hearing complications. This syndrome basically falls under the umbrella of fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, which ranges in different syndromes and characteristics for other diagnostics. So, in particularly, we're speaking about fetal alcohol syndrome in this presentation. Besides brain damage and slow growth, children develop complications with learning at a very young age with this syndrome. These complications can later delay their educational development. The fetal alcohol syndrome affects individuals in varying degrees, mild to severe. The severity of the conditions is due to the level of alcohol abuse and the stage of pregnancy in which the alcohol was consumed. So it's basically falling on the responsibility of the pregnant woman. A learning disability is a term referring to a group of disorders affecting academic skills. As shown on this slide, these are some of the complications caused by fetal alcohol syndrome, which can delay a student's academic development. So basically, like lack of focus, poor judgment, weak generalizing skills, difficulty in concentration. And if you look closer, I've actually posted an image of the brain and the areas that the syndrome actually affects. Moving forward, symptoms shown by the student in the classroom and at home are noticeable, and in any observant should raise questions to test the child. The characteristics listed on this particular slide are ones teachers would certainly notice instructing the child daily. The last bullet point lists nervous system problems. This problem includes physical and behavioral complications. The behavioral and physical complications can affect the ability to follow classroom routines, can affect the independency of living skills, and their social development. And these are all factors that regular classroom and regular schools live on a daily basis. I do want to make it clear that this syndrome is 100% preventable by just deciding not to drink alcohol during pregnancy. And take a look at the actual statistic that I've posted here. 0.5 to 2 infants out of 1,000 born are affected with this particular syndrome here, which is something that our culture should definitely take action in changing. So, fetal alcohol syndrome is a lifetime disability. However, When we do diagnose it at an early age and provide intensive care and accommodations, the areas with complications can develop, becoming less severe. Of course, this takes time and consistency, and teachers need to observe students to discover their learning patterns. Understanding a student's learning pattern allows the teacher to put together specific strategies of instruction for a successful learning experience. One of the bullets includes an individual education plan, an IEP. And the image here is the process and measures that are taken throughout the course of the building of the student's profile. Uh, the needs listed for this diagnosed student, it doesn't mean that it has a cure or that it would cure the student. The fetal alcohol syndrome, like I said, is a lifetime syndrome. So what these needed necessities, some of the best practices that can be used in the class would be consistency, simplicity, structure, repetition, routines, constant observation, reevaluation, and most importantly, valuing the child's achievement and strengths. The focus for the teacher is to build learning strategies based on their strengths. So it's something that's engaging for them. These practices sound good for all students if you do think about it, with or without disorders. However, students diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome can affect the regular classroom negatively. Some of the accommodations that would affect the regular classroom can include repetitive lessons, so every student is on the same beat with learning, the pace of the lesson, and a teacher's limited time or attention for regular students. Students with the fetal alcohol syndrome are also hyperactive and impulsive, which can cause a great deal of distraction in the classroom. They lack social skills like sharing, cooperating, taking turns, which can cause conflict and other complications. Positive effects on the merge of students in one classroom is the lessons that they would actually learn from each other. And this can only happen, of course, in a healthy and comfortable learning environment. So that's something for the teacher to take into account. All patients with fetal alcohol syndrome have a higher risk for physical, emotional, and at times even sexual abuse. This is due to their poor judgment and social skills. To live a comfortable life, children diagnosed must live a calm, predictable setting without experiencing neglect and abuse, preventing further damage. Listed on this slide are factors that affect the home of children diagnosed. These detail living in a structured shelter, having lack of patience causing frustration, costly accommodations, and support across all of the board. I have linked a short video on adults living with fetal alcohol syndrome here, in which, of course, I would want you guys to take a look into because it is impacting and it is something definitely to learn from.
Last week, I got in a fight with someone. He hit me first, so I hit him back.
The fact that I got as far as I have without like having a breakdown at any point, a really big one, I got really lucky.
Why are you upset?
When my birth mother drank when I was in her womb, that affected parts of my brain and all that.
She said that my mom drank alcohol and it damaged my brain.
Usually had to be physically restrained somewhere along the line as he got older because he'd just tear up everything. we were afraid that he was going to hurt somebody as he got older, but you can't let him see the fear because that just makes him stronger and more determined that he's going to do something.
Sometimes. You ever ask me? Take me to jail? Yes.
I worry about Allison as she gets older on her own. Who's going to be there to tell her right from wrong?
Everything was stacked against this child before she was even born. And the fact that she could scream at 3 o'clock in the morning was a good thing.
I'm sure that something like this can drive a wedge in between a couple, but we have chosen to use this to strengthen us, and it has.
In ending of my presentation, I'd like to point out the factors of what should be learned from the presentation. Not only taking action in a student who may have tendencies of fetal alcohol syndrome when it matters the most, when the mother is actually in the stage of pregnancy. Thank you so much for viewing my presentation, and have a great night.